Several months went by. It was spring, and life at Birtwick Hall was peaceful and pleasant. Ginger, Merrylegs, and I laughed and chatted in the paddock and looked forward to the months of warmer weather. Then one night I was roused from my sleep by the clanging of the stable bell. The stable door flew open, and John ran in crying, "Wake up, Beauty! You must run your fastest tonight." Before I could even think, he had the saddle on my back and a bridle on my head. We took a quick trot to the main house where the squire was anxiously waiting. "Hurry, John. You're riding for Mrs. Gordon's life tonight. Tell Dr. White he must get here quickly. Then let Beauty rest at the inn and be back as soon as you can. There's not a moment to lose." With that, we were off. "Now, Beauty, do your best," John told me urgently, and so I did. For 8 miles, through thick woods, uphill, downhill, I galloped as fast as I could, needing neither whip nor spur. The church struck 3 as we pulled up at Dr. White's house. John leaped off my back and pounded on the door. An upstairs window flew open. "What do you want?" asked Dr. White. "Mrs. Gordon's very ill, sir. Squire wants you to come at once. He thinks she'll die if you cannot get here." In a flash, the doctor was dressed and at the door. "There's a problem. My horse has gone lame. Can I take yours?" John hesitated, looking at me. "He's galloped nearly all the way here, sir, and I'm sure he needs rest. But if any horse can get you there in time, Beauty's the one. Take him. I'll walk." And so the doctor and I galloped off. He was much heavier than John and not as good a rider. But I knew that Mrs. Gordon's life was at stake, and that was all that mattered. Exhausted as I was, I raced back the way I had come. It was just getting light when we reached Birtwick Hall. Little Joe Green, the squire's newest stable boy, led me to my stall where the doctor hurried into the house. My legs shook after my grueling run. My coat was wet all over. I stood exhausted and panting heavily as Joe ran to get some water. Joe loved horses very much, but this was his first job in a stable, and he had a lot to learn. I know he only did what he thought was best for me, but although he rubbed down my legs and chest, he did not know enough to cover me with warm blankets. And he gave me plenty of cold water to drink, which tasted wonderful, but wasn't good for me. Joe left the stable thinking I was well taken care of. Soon I began to tremble with the cold. How I wished for a blanket. My legs and chest ached, but all I could do was lie there shivering. How long would it be before someone came in? John had 8 long miles to walk, and Joe had gone back to his quarters. I lay there for a very long time when John finally walked in. I gave a low moan, for I was in great pain. He ran to my side and seemed to know immediately what was wrong. "That dumb boy," he muttered. "No blanket for the horse, and he probably gave him cold water, too." He quickly covered me with warm blankets and gave me some hot water. I was very ill with fever. My lungs were infected, too, so that it hurt even to breathe. John came and nursed me night and day. The horse doctor paid a visit every morning. Squire Gordon once came to see how I was doing. Poor Beauty. "Do you know you saved your mistress's life?" "Yes, Beauty, you did." "Any longer, and it would have been too late for her." Oh, I was very glad to hear that. Joe spent many hours by my side, too. He seemed very sad and often told me how sorry he was for making me ill. I wanted to tell him I knew he'd only been doing what he thought was best, but there was no way I could. This was a hard time for me. There were many moments when I thought I would die, and I believe they all thought so, too. But in time, with good care, my spirits and health returned. Once again, I was able to join Ginger and Merrylegs in the paddock, and eventually I was well enough to be harnessed to the carriage and drive the Gordons about. Everyone was pleased at my recovery, and I was glad to be feeling good again. We didn't know it then, but changes were coming to Birtwick Hall. My time with the Gordons was drawing to an end. Although there were no more frantic runs to the doctor, Mrs. Gordon was still very ill. Finally, Dr. White advised her to leave the country and move to a warmer climate. "I hate to sell off the horses in the house," Squire Gordon told John, "but there's nothing else I can do." Sadness fell over the entire household. No one wanted to leave the Gordons or Birtwick Hall, but it couldn't be helped. Squire Gordon reluctantly made arrangements to move his family. The day finally came when Ginger and I drove the Gordons to the train station for the last time. It was a sad time indeed. "Goodbye, Black Beauty," the squire's wife whispered to me. "I shall never forget what you did for me." The squire and the little girls patted Ginger and me and whispered kind words in our ears. Then they were gone. Back at the stable, Ginger, Merrylegs, and I had a worried discussion. None of us knew where our next home would be. What would become of us? Until now, I'd known only kind people and good care. What would my next owner be like?